Good day and welcome to Leading People Through Change, another e-learning module offered by HP Life. Let's look at the agenda today of what we will be covering. We'll go through a brief introduction. We'll look at change management and change leadership. We'll look at understanding the change. We'll look at how to develop a communication plan, how to respond to reactions to change. We'll look at building resilience, and then we'll conclude by reviewing what has been covered. So let's have a look at the objectives of today. Accelerate the adoption of change in an organization by identifying key change leadership responsibilities, recognizing the need to understand all aspects of the change, identify and applying techniques for dealing with reactions to change. In this module, we'll have a look at the difference between change management and change leadership. On the slide, you will see a change iceberg. It shows how the visible management responsibilities depend on leadership responsibilities that are often invisible. Management and leadership are complementary and necessary activities and responsibilities. They can both be performed by the same person or by different people or a team. The change manager is responsible for the cost, resources, implementation, quality, and timeline of the change event. Related activities are planning and organizing, budgeting, staffing, controlling, problem-solving, following processes, and managing the work. Leadership activities consider the people, the culture, the energy, perceptions, alignment, and empowerment. The responsibilities focus on the organization and the cultural environment of the workplace. They include vision, which is a mental image produced by the imagination, aligning, which is to move or be adjusted into proper relationship or orientation, communicating, to express oneself in such a way that one is readily and clearly understood, motivating, which is to provide an incentive or a move to action, process, which is a series of actions, changes, or functions bringing about a result, and organization, a structure through which individuals cooperate systematically to conduct business. This presentation focuses on the often neglected responsibilities of change leadership. Based on what we've discussed, reflect on what you think are the possible change leadership responsibilities in your own organization or your own specific environment. What are the implications for the people and for aligning them with the change? Also ask yourself what you think are the most important change leadership responsibilities. Now we're going to look at understanding the change. There are four major aspects of the change that are important to understand. Why is the change taking place? What is its purpose? The nature of the change and what type of change event is it? Who is involved directly or indirectly in the change? What are the people issues, in other words? And what are the characteristics of the environment in which the change is taking place? For each of these aspects, you need to clarify the needs and challenges. This set of questions deals with the nature of the change. The answers indicate the type of change event, its scope, and the anticipated results. You need to ask yourself, what is the purpose of the change? Can you describe the nature of the change in detail? If not, how can you find the information that would enable you to do so? Which specific elements of the organization need to change? What is the future state? In other words, what will be different after the change has taken place? What would happen if the change in which you are involved is not implemented? What would happen if it is unsuccessful? Also look at the obstacles that might hinder the change. What are the people issues? The answers to these questions should indicate the people issues, including the individuals who will be directly affected by the change, as well as the sponsors and stakeholders. So ask yourself, who is sponsoring or driving the change? Who will be affected by the change? What will people need to do differently? What new or improved skills or competencies will people need? Which existing strengths or capabilities could help facilitate the success of the change effort? Let's have a look at a gap analysis relating to the people issues. The scale of a change differs, and not all changes have current and future states in each of the layers shown in the slide. However, all must be considered before deciding that any are irrelevant. The people issues concern the organization and its structure, workflow and business processes, competencies and skills, attitudes and behaviors. You can identify the gaps between the current state and the future state after the change. Some changes affect the organizational structure. Even a change in management can have that effect. Other changes are smaller in scale and might affect only the way people work within the same organization. A change might not affect the overall organization, but affect the current workflow and processes. Alternatively, there might be new tools that require changes in competencies and skills. An organizational change might be the integration of two different teams or a change in management. A change in workflow and processes might be a change in how the team performs certain tasks or how they transmit the outputs of their work. A change in competencies and skills might be required by the introduction of new tools or systems or management expectations. A change in current attitudes and behaviors might be differences in how the team is expected to relate to its customers and its suppliers. What are the environmental issues? One of the key points for change leaders is how the environment affects the people and the organization. One needs to ask oneself which environmental factors are the most critical. How might environmental factors affect the organizational structure? The answers to these questions should indicate the workplace environment issues, particularly what might need to be modified to support the change. For example, if a facility closes, how does this affect the people? If the infrastructure changes so that it is easier or more difficult to connect to systems and databases, what does this mean to the people? If the system software changes so that people have to make changes in the way that they work, what is the effect? If the tools, user interface, or workgroup applications change, how will people react? If the business processes, workflow, or methods change, what does this mean to the people who use them on a daily basis? Let's look at the gap analysis for environmental issues. The issues concern facility, overall infrastructure, current systems, and current tools. A facility change might be a change in the building or site, a requirement to work in a home office or not to work in a home office, or a change in the size of the workspace. The infrastructure is the overall network infrastructure and access to resources through the intranet. It includes telephone conferencing and access to training and research resources, both internal and external. The systems are the processes, methods, and standards. With a major transformation change, processes might change radically. The tools include the applications and databases, as well as any tools that are used on the job. So understanding the change. Think of a change situation that you are currently involved in. What are the key characteristics of the change? What are the significant gaps? And what are the implications for change leadership? In your own time, reflect upon these questions. Now we're going to discuss the importance of communication as a key change leadership responsibility. Before creating a practical communication plan, you must define a communication strategy. This presentation and the following slides provide some interesting insights into communication as a change leadership strategy. Effective communication is key to the success of a change effort. It's not simply a matter of providing information, however. It is important to engage the change management team and the stakeholders by communicating in a way that appeals to their intellect, their emotions, and their actions. This slide shows how you can influence the stakeholders by communicating in a way that addresses their concerns and anxieties. The intellect, or the head, requires communication that addresses the logical and rational aspect. The emotions, or the heart, require communication that addresses the hopes, fears, and anxieties. The actions, or hands, require communication that addresses current and required skills and capabilities. Have you heard these questions asked about a change? How does this fit in the big picture? Is this the right time? Is this realistic? How does this affect other priorities? What are the advantages and disadvantages? What will I lose? What do I gain? Who else is affected? What else do I have to do? Do I have to learn new skills? Have you heard these questions before, or have you actually asked them yourself? When we look at this table, it suggests ways in which you can address the intellect or the head by communicating the big picture. Think of how you would communicate the purpose and nature of the change and why you would do so in this way. Think of how you would communicate the key facts concisely and why you would do so in this way. Think of how you would communicate the vision, and again, why would you do so in this way? Ask yourself, would I communicate differently in different circumstances? If so, why? If we look at the table of the heart, where we address emotional responses, this table suggests ways in which you can address, think of how you would express empathy and why you would do so in this way. Think of how you would share your own feelings and thoughts and why you would do so. Take care not to share negative feelings and thoughts about the change, but at the same time, do not be so confident and cheerful that you appear to be exaggerating and being insincere. Communicating actions is about instilling confidence that things can get done, that everyone has a part to play, and that there is a clear plan to follow. This requires coordination with the person or group that is responsible for implementing the change. The communication plan has different phases that should support the different stages of the change event. What must be communicated before the change takes place? What must be communicated during the change? What must be communicated on a continuing basis after the change has taken place? The communication plan should also address the needs of the different stakeholders before, during, and after the change event. You may also need to select an appropriate meeting for transmitting the plan. There are many alternative methods of communication. Some methods are better than others at addressing the head, the heart, and the hands. Some methods are effective with all three. You need face-to-face meetings for large groups or one-on-one meetings for an individual when the communication is important and needs to address the head, heart, and hands. For example, the launch of a major change for a department or individual should be addressed face-to-face. You can use email or instant messaging for communications that address only the heads and hands and do not have an emotional component. These are useful for facts and action items. You can use voicemail alone for factual communications that do not need to address either the heart or the hands. Think about which methods of communication you feel most comfortable with. Which do you think are the most effective? Again, think of the current change that you are going through. Which is the most important in your change situation? Is addressing the heart, the head, or the hands most important? Now we're going to discuss how to respond to normal reactions to change. As a change leader or change agent, it is important to understand that there is a normal reaction to change. This reaction occurs in both individuals and groups. Although some experts might give the stages different names or add more stages, the basic stages that affect performance are shown in the Kubler-Ross diagram shown in this actual slide. A change leader or change agent is not immune from the normal reaction to change. In fact, it can be more difficult to deal with the stages while putting on a brave face on the change. The ideas that were discussed earlier about communicating to the head, heart, or hands also apply to the ways in which you respond to change reactions. Most people go through the stages on the slide, and they actually might go back and repeat an earlier stage. When we look at this slide, we'll see that one of the first reactions is denial. Listen for these types of comments and match them to your reaction stage. It will help you to understand who is in denial. It will be over soon. It feels like a dream. I'll think about it tomorrow. Things won't really change much. Here we list some of the ways in which you can respond to reactions based on denial. When responding to denial, it is important to both listen and to provide facts. Think of other ways in which you can respond to reactions based on denial. Depending on the personalities and experience of the individuals, resistance can take the form of either depression or anger. Watch for these types of reactions. Expressing anger is easy to observe. However, some of the other reactions, such as questioning and contradicting the data about the change, are less easy to identify. Some people go through cycles of depression and anger. Both depression and anger are emotional reactions and must be dealt with in a way that focuses on the emotions rather than the intellect. It is also helpful to encourage people to look forward rather than backward by providing some information about goals or opportunities. Listening for these types of comments and match them to the reaction stage. This will help you to understand who is in the bargaining stage. Bargaining might include offering to work for less money, offering to do alternative work, or be demoted down the hierarchy. People might try to bargain their past achievements and company loyalty in exchange for special consideration. Some bargaining is positive and creative. For example, there could be suggestions that improve the change process or the future state. It is important to listen and to be receptive to ideas. Also, help people to see what opportunities there might be. While emphasizing what you can offer, it is important to be realistic and honest. Watch for these types of reactions and match them to the exploration stage. Exploration is a positive reaction. Encourage it by discussing future possibilities and supporting new ideas. However, make sure that these are realistic and can be implemented. If necessary, you might need to explain why more exciting ideas that have been offered by others cannot work. Think of other ways that would be effective in responding to exploratory behavior. Although this reaction is positive, watch for some warning signs that can cause people to revert to a previous stage. These are feelings of being overwhelmed, frustration with the learning curve, and an inability to focus. The reactions we're going to discuss now will help you to understand who is already committed to the change and can fully participate in the change effort. Do not neglect those who are committed. They might need continued reassurance. Again, refer to your own situation that you're currently in. Which typical reactions do you find most challenging? How can you anticipate typical reactions? What do you think works best in responding to typical reactions to change? We're now going to discuss how to build resilience to change. The most important attribute for dealing with change is resilience. Without resilience, people and groups can sometimes become dysfunctional. Resilient people not only deal with change, they learn from change and can often function more effectively as a result of the changes they have experienced. The picture of an airplane flying into storm clouds demonstrates its resilience through change. On the ground, the airplane's wings are fixed and firm. However, the wings are actually flexible so that in the air they can withstand the gusts of wind. Once the airplane has flown through the storm and landed safely, its wings are fixed and firm again. In the same way, people who are flexible are resilient and can rebound from change. As a change leader, you need to develop your own resilience as well as encourage others to become more resilient. 5 key characteristics that enhance resilience are the ability to remain focused even in an atmosphere of turmoil, be flexible in attitude and mind, be well organized, be proactive and not passive, maintain a positive attitude and a sense of humor. Proactive means controlling a situation by making things happen or preparing for the future. Positive means hopeful or optimistic, thinking that good things will happen. Focused means directing your attention or effort at something specific. Flexible means you are able to change or able to do different things or do things differently. And organized means having things arranged in a neat and effective way. Right, let's review our agenda. We went through the introduction. We had a look at change management and change leadership. We understand the change. We develop a communication plan. We looked at how to respond to reactions to change. We built resilience. I'm going to ask a few questions that I'm going to ask you to reflect on. What were the key things you learned about change leadership responsibilities? What do you need to understand about the change? What are the 3 aspects that your communication plan should address? What are the normal reactions to change? What are the characteristics of resilience to change? Now let's look at an action plan. Review the topics that we discussed. Reflect on your own change leadership knowledge and skills. Write down 3 to 5 strengths and write down 2 or 3 techniques that could be improved. Note any actions that you will take to improve your knowledge and skills and follow up. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with 1 step. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed change management and change leadership and are able to apply these techniques in your own environment.